From Esperanza United, I am Aida Negron, bilingual communication specialist, and this is Conversations Over Cafecito. Join us as we interview advocates, community members, nonprofit leaders, pioneers, and policy influencers about their contributions to ending domestic violence, sexual assault, teen dating violence, and stalking. Welcome to Conversations Over Cafecito. Today we have Vivian Huelgo, who is CEO of Esperanza United, and we are celebrating Mother's Day. So we will interview Vivian, basically exploring how her early experiences shape her path, what she's learned from the mothers she served, and the message she wants to share with Latina survivors rebuilding their lives. Thank you, Vivian, for being here with us.
Thank you, Ayla, so much. I'm happy to be here with you and to talk about mothers and motherhood and all of the survivors who are mothers that I've worked with and that we've worked with over the years.
Your early experiences, you mentioned that at LatinoJustice, something happened that helped you connect the dots between your upbringing and system issues. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as a young person, as a child, I saw my mother, Latina immigrant to this country, facing certain barriers because she couldn't speak English. And I saw her really luchando, really working hard. She was a leader in her own home, a leader in her own neighborhood. Our neighbors and community members would come to her and ask her advice on parenting and on other things and on where to locate resources. And so I have a distinct memory of both her struggles, but also her leadership in our small world and community. I also recall very deeply the point at which kind of my small world expanded and grew. And my mother had started engaging in childcare for some friends of friends and neighbors. And a friend of a friend who I came to find out was an attorney was a working mom. And it hadn't occurred to me really as a child, like, oh, you could be a mom and work outside of the home. And I remember vividly, like, she wore suits when she would come pick up the baby. And she had a briefcase and she was like pumping milk. Like now that I look back, she must have worked in like a city building and there was definitely no place to pump milk back then. She was probably back then pumping milk in like a restroom. I imagine like it must have been so hard for her. But she always came in her suit and her briefcase and she would pick up the baby and she would chat with my mom and she would chat with me. And eventually she became one of the first Dominican judges on the bench in New York City. And she just recently retired as a judge, this woman. And so I just have this vivid image of her kind of living out Latina leadership, not just within her home or in her neighborhood, but actually in the workplace. And that kind of opened up my world. And so I had observations of mothers who were in challenging relationships. I don't know if I knew that they were abusive at the time. And I, wasn't really putting together or connecting the dots until I worked at LatinoJustice in New York City. And at the time, they were preparing to send a delegation to the World Conference on Women in Beijing. And they had a whole platform of a Latina rights initiative, and it was looking at economic issues, health issues, education issues for Latinas, and then gender-based violence or domestic violence was part of this kind of portfolio of issues that they were looking at from a legal perspective, from a public health perspective, from a societal perspective. And it really all came together for me about the systems that Latinas were navigating in this country, how they were accessing some systems, unable to access some systems, how some systems simply weren't working for them at all. and all the while also juggling, in many cases, not always, motherhood and family, and how they are leaders of their family unit, also leaders in their communities. Like, it just all kind of came together in a way that I hadn't quite put together myself, even though I'd lived and seen it and breathed it for so long throughout my childhood.
That's great, Vivian. It's a great story. And then you describe your work at Sanctuary for Families with Latina immigrant moms as more than just legal. So for you, it seems like it was very personal and relational. What did those mothers teach you about care, resilience, and what cultural specific advocacy really means?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was working with Latina, mostly Spanish speaking immigrant survivors of gender based violence. And, part of the thinking was that as a Latina myself, I speak Spanish, I could communicate with them, that's why we would be paired up in this very culturally specific way. And at the time, I don't know that we called it culturally specific services the way we do at Esperanza United, where we think of ourselves as a culturally specific organization and that the community is at the heart of everything that we do. But at the time, I was like, oh, well, I will serve them as their attorney and represent them to the best of my ability. But for us to work together, it couldn't just be about work. It was really a human connection, a community connection. I found with my clients, my Latina clients, that we would ask about each other's families, ask about each other on a more personal level, and not just focus on the legal case or the legal statutes, that it really was a broader relationship. And that I would be talking to them not just about their family law case or their immigration law case, but I would also be asking them about how their children were doing, how their children were feeling, what was going on at school. And sometimes I'd be helping them read through their mail or sort through communications that they were getting by mail from their kids' school and things like that. So it was a very culturally specific approach in my mind, because we really met one another as Latina community members, both of us, even though I happen to have this skill or this license that allowed me to represent them in court. But we were really one and the same, no different from one another. They just happened to be mothers. At the time, I was not. And I was in a position that I could be helpful to them. And there was real mutual respect, mutual understanding. As I reflect back now, I thought that I understood how much they were each carrying in terms of worrying about their safety, worrying about their court case, worrying about their work or work opportunities, worrying about their children. And now that I've become a mother myself, I have so much more respect for how strong and resilient they were to be carrying all of that. And at the same time, truly worrying about the welfare and the well-being of their children on a daily basis. I think I appreciated it, but I just quite didn't appreciate it as much as I do now. I remember, talking to them on the weekends, talking to their children. It really was a broader, deeper relationship than some of the other attorneys that I encountered who were working with survivors of gender-based violence. And, some of them I'm still in touch with. Many of them would call me on my birthday and wish me a happy birthday. It's a different kind of relationship. I found it really deeply rewarding. And part of it was that we were in community together and that I really understood some of the dynamics that they were sharing with me about their extended family. And they also understood some of the obligations that I felt to take care of my family members and my parents and things like that. So they were incredibly beautiful relationships that I shared with my clients when I was at Sanctuary for Families. And I'm really proud of the work that we accomplished. And I can also say that it was really great legal work that we did on their behalf. So it was both. it could be both high quality legal work and at the same time be community connected and culturally specific and culturally accessible for this community of clients that we had.
So now that you're a mother yourself, how has that changed the way you understand what your former clients, and you mentioned something about this, but tell us more about how your understanding now of your former clients, how it has shaped or shifted, if that's applicable, how you lead on advocate today.
I mean, I think as a mother now myself, I appreciate more deeply how extended and stretched all of my clients were in terms of juggling all of their concerns and obviously primarily the well-being of their children. I also think it has impacted how I relate to our staff who are mothers themselves. And I appreciate how they have to, in some ways, code switch. So during the day, they might be focused on projects and timelines and planning or the provision of supports or services. And now I appreciate so much how they have to code switch and almost switch up their energy to be a different kind of calming, comforting energy when they're with their children, and how important it is to set boundaries, and be able to switch off the work that we do to really fully focus and give attention to our children. And I think that's something also for my clients that I don't know that I deeply appreciated, just how much domestic violence takes you away from being fully present for your children, and that is a harm perpetuated by an abuser that I don't think the courts really understand or appreciate, how that is an additional harm to both mother and child. I think that despite research and studies and articles examining the dynamics of abuse, we still don't fully appreciate just how abuse is an additional harm, that it takes energy and focus away for a mother for her children if she's also managing or navigating that abuse. I think that despite my best efforts to be an advocate on behalf of my clients, that now that I am a mother, I truly see how I really need to protect my energy and to make it fully available to my children.
Right now, thanks to you and to many others working with to help women in our Latino communities, there are a lot of mothers suffering, as you mentioned, but there are others who are surviving and changing and rebuilding. Again, thanks to the work you do. So, if they are listening right now, these that are in the process of rebuilding their lives, what message would you want to offer, like a heart to heart message?
Well, I see mothers as natural leaders. They're leaders of their team, like their family, their team of children. And I I think even when times are difficult, even when times are hard, even when there's great uncertainty around us, I hope that they continue to tap into that leadership and continue to exemplify that leadership. And so I've been so impressed by the perseverance of our staff and our participants throughout recent weeks and months, just to see how they continue to come back to what is important to them. And as mothers, that might be their well-being of their children. For our staff, it might be the work that we do. And so I just see incredible leadership and incredible resilience in our participants and in our staff. And I know for me, it helps me to continue. It helps me to persevere. And so I deeply appreciate them for that.
And for those who are currently realizing that they might be in an abusive relationship, what would you say to them?
Well, I would say for someone who is a survivor and is thinking about their next steps, to reach out to either our crisis line or to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and that every question is welcome, every inquiry is welcome, and that you don't have to know right away what to do, but reach out. Reach out and connect and ask questions and explore. And don't hesitate to do that.
Thank you, Vivian.
Thank you, Ayla, so much.
This has been another episode of Conversations Over Cafecito, presented by Esperanza United, formerly known as Casa de Esperanza. With this podcast, we build bridges and connections between research, practice, and policies that inspire effective responses to eliminate domestic violence and promote healthy relationships within Latino families and communities. For more information, visit esperanzaunited.org. This program was produced by the staff of Esperanza United, and the music was composed by Joey Horton. I am Aida Negron, bilingual communication specialist. Thank you for listening. Until the next time,